First tonight, in the latest of a series of U.S. restrictions on international students, the Trump administration is suspending new applications for student visas from overseas. The State Department says it'll expand social media vetting of new applicants. It's part of Mr. Trump's campaign against some of the best-known universities, which rely heavily on foreign students for their funding. Responding to the move, China has called on the U.S. to protect international students, including those from China, saying that educational cooperation and academic exchange should not be disrupted. Meanwhile, the administration has upped its war against Harvard University. It's asking government bodies to consider ending funding worth $100 million. That's in addition to the $2.5 billion in government grants it's already frozen. The State Department spokeswoman, Tammy Bruce, defended the policy.
In our tool chest to vet anyone coming in who wants to come into this country, and in order to do so, it has to apply for a visa to gain access to our nation. So every sovereign country has a right to know who's trying to come in, why they want to come in, who they are, what they've been doing, and at least hopefully within that framework, determine what they will be doing while they're here. So that's nothing new, and we will continue to use every tool we can to assess who it is that's coming here, whether they are students or otherwise.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from California by the U.S. political analyst and chief Republican strategist, Errol Morkoc. Errol, good to see you again. How much dust is this raising in America, this specific targeting by the president of the community of international students?
You know, it's getting a certain amount of play domestically, but also it's something that I think we have to look at from the broad spectrum. It's not just that Donald Trump woke up and had this opinion. It's that this opinion is the opinion that many of his supporters and voters who represent the majority of the country had. And the idea isn't to be against international students, despite the fact that at first glance it looks to be that way. Rather, it's looking at the fact that you have these anti-American movements on student campuses. And anybody who went to some of these universities can tell you a lot of the leadership in these anti-American groups are from international countries. Now, if those people had told the State Department, hey, I'm going to come to America because my beliefs are the destruction of Israel or the destruction of the Western Alliance or something like that, they probably would not have been given visas. So I think that's where we're coming into. And Trump, by Harvard deciding not to play ball, Trump has now decided to go scorched earth against the intelligentsia, who I think have lost a lot of their goodwill and standing with the American people. So the American people are very interested to see how this plays out. If you keep in mind, as everybody knows, it's very expensive to go to school in America. And when you find out that half of the students at Columbia are from foreign countries and 40% of the students at Harvard are from foreign universities, you're not exactly going to get a lot of sympathy from Americans who can't afford to send their kids to school in the short term. Now, nobody is hoping that there's any sort of long-term situation. We would like all the universities and everybody to continue the exchange of pedagogical information and strategy. But if they're unwilling to at least vet the students or prove to us that the people coming here aren't posting things on the internet, such as anti-Semitic things or such as anti-American things before they come, then perhaps we need to look at things a little bit more closely. So I think Trump is not afraid to take them on. For too long, almost every American administration has been afraid to take on the universities. And I think it's a long time coming, and now the day of reckoning is here. Will Harvard stand up for the American people, or will it stand up to protect the admitted free speech of individuals who are not American students, and in doing so, will they cause their university irreparable harm in terms of funding, because the Trump administration and the American people don't seem to be on their side right now?
It's very interesting the way you put it there, but of course many Jewish students who Mr. Trump claims he's protecting have spoken up to say they don't agree with his approach. They're worried that international students are being used as poker chips, as one of them put it, by the Trump administration, blamed, demonized, separated from the campus community and portrayed as the enemy. And they say that campus anti-Semitism requires a surgical approach, but that what the Trump administration is doing is like stabbing the patient with a scalpel.
Well, as much as I can understand perhaps the idea of young people to always look for a more creative or thoughtful solution, as college students are apt to do. And keep in mind the majority of Jewish Americans voted for against Mr. Trump in this last election. He doesn't have the support of the American Jewish people statistically. It's about 70-30. Now, their students are free to share that, and I hear what they're saying. However, this is something that's a little bit bigger than, their own personal descriptions. And you have to keep in mind, they're talking about the students feeling unsafe on the campus. Are they insinuating that the other students at these universities are now against the international students? I doubt that. The majority of students on all campuses are liberal and open-minded and mostly decent people. So there's not like some backlash against international students on campus. So I disagree with that, but I understand how they might see that. However, Donald Trump has gone after anti-Semitism without any remorse and without any surgical scalpel whatsoever. He very much is willing to bludgeon it back into the dirty, disgusting hole it's trying to come out of. We've seen too many times that in the intelligentsia world, that is where the anti-Semitism starts, and we've seen throughout history where that goes. And it's not something that we want to have anything to do with. And while I do agree that there could be a more nuanced approach, that didn't work. We saw Jewish students chased into their dorm rooms, yells of death to Jews, death to Israel. Obviously a situation where that nuanced approach didn't work. And when they tried to remove the cancerous elements, then all of a sudden everybody got all up in arms. Oh, they removed the guy who was the head of it. So if you try to be surgical, they say, oh, give us back the guy you took. And if we come in, we try to knock them all down, they say, oh, be surgical. So, I mean, I don't expect to have any support really from anybody on college campuses, especially in modern day USA. But those students objectively are wrong. If they were right, the anti-Semitism would have been surgically cut out years ago. It's gotten worse, and it's not just anti-Semitism; it's anti-Americanism. It's people going around chanting that America was never great, that America is stolen land, that all of our forefathers and founding fathers are evil, racist people, and those things are all in the same boat. So eventually, the American people got fed up with this. They sent Donald Trump to the White House, and this is polling very well with his constituents, because the majority of us actually didn't go to Harvard, and we aren't very impressed with what's come out of there in the last 20 to 30 years.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people who say that this is really about ending all diversity and inclusion programs, which is something the Ivy League universities reject, and that really is the bone of contention. But I mean, briefly, if fewer foreign students are allowed into the US, I mean, what sort of implications will that have?
I think it would be really surprising if we found that the majority of foreign students had very turbulent or controversial online presences. I don't think that the majority of foreign students, if we looked at what they've said on the internet, would be part of any hate groups. So the amount of students who would actually be rejected or refused entry to the U.S. would be very minimal. So I don't think anybody, for example, who's a computer science student from China is involved in anything to do with Israel-Palestine. So they're probably not posting about those type of things. Now, if you were to go long term, if you were to say, yeah, we burned the ships at the beach and no more immigrants and nothing, that's a terrible thing for America. America's one of the great things about it is the brain drain of the world in a sort of negative for the world, good for America. Half of the patents in America are filed by immigrants who've come to this country, such as my father, who came to this country and has a patent. Like, that's one of the great things about U.S. science and U.S. academia and institutions. But that doesn't mean that we have to forget about the local people and the American people, and more importantly, the safety of our campuses. So I think it might be at first seeming to be an impediment, but it should actually give students who haven't been posting anti-Semitic and anti-American things a leg up. And any student who has been will probably be denied entry, and that's probably for the betterment of the campus, because we already have enough of those people domestically homegrown. We don't need to be importing anymore.
Well, that's very interesting. We will watch and see how things evolve. But if you don't mind, Errol, and I hope I'm not throwing a wobbler your way, before we let you go, just tell us about comments by Elon Musk stepping out of line for the first time against his boss, Donald Trump, over that big, beautiful bill, as it's being called. Mr. Musk believes it's going to add a huge deficit to America, which he says counters the work he's doing in the Department of Government Efficiency that's meant to cut government spending and reduce the deficit. I mean, how much is he sailing close to the wind when he stands up publicly to Mr. Trump, a man who we all know doesn't have a very high tolerance for dissent?
It's a strong point you make, and I think in this case, Elon Musk was very tactical in how he chose to respond. He didn't respond to Trump directly. He responded to Congress passing that bill. And so that way he was able to at least ameliorate the connection, although it does by the transitive property connect to Trump. And now a lot of Republicans that I've spoken to share Mr. Musk's sentiment. They're disappointed that the Conservative Party, the Republican Party, which used to be a party of austerity, is no longer that party. And that's pretty fair to say, even though, I mean, Democrats like to say that we're the ones trying to cut bills and cut spending. Look at this last bill. Obviously, it's not, and it's not the ethos of what we ran on in some respects. They're doing a very, modern economic concept of growing the revenues faster than the deficit. And I think that's a little bit antithetical to what we were promised. And I think Elon Musk is right to be disappointed. His supporters are right to be a little bit disappointed. And myself, I have to say, it's not exactly what we wanted to see. But being on the inside, it doesn't surprise me. It's the way the parties have been going, the way that things have changed for the Republicans to be in the position they are now. If you look at Trump, former Democrat, if you look at Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat. You look at a lot of people, RFK Jr., the people in this administration. So it's not an ideologically, fiscally conservative group anymore, despite having that vestige that Elon was trying to bring back in. So the question now comes, number one, can they actually stimulate the economy to offset this? And number two, can Doge continue to deliver measured and relevant returns that we see it actually being a good payoff? But right now, I think Elon is disappointed with the Republican Party more than he's directly tried to challenge President Trump, and he'll be fine if he keeps it at that level.
I like that. A very tactical response, spoken like a true chief Republican strategist. And that is, of course, what he is. Errol Morkoc is a chief Republican strategist, U.S. political analyst. He was talking to me on the line from California. Very grateful to you, as always, Errol.